enough to have with us Mr. Mudit Kumar Singh, who is IFS 1984 batch. He is DG Chhattisgarh Council of Science and Technology, Chhattisgarh. And I will request Mudit Saab to give his valedictory address. Little brief bio about Mudit Saab. He is a scholar of Lucknow University and Dresden University of Technology, Germany. He is a DAAD fellow. He worked as ADG, Indian Council of Forestry Research and Education, Dehradun, and the Government of India. He has also worked as Managing Director, Chhattisgarh Infrastructure Development Corporation, Director of Chhattisgarh Academy of Administration, Additional PCCF Land Management, Nodal Officer, Forest Conservation Act, and also Managing Director, Chhattisgarh State Minor Forest Produce Trading and Development Cooperative Federation, etc. Sir has wide experience in capacity building and training project implementation, watershed development, and socio-economic development in the JFM programs. He has earned several national and international awards. I request Mudit Saab to kindly take over.
Thank you, OP Jindal University, and my compliments to Professor Patidar, Vice Chancellor of OP Jindal University, Professor Anil Gupta from NIDM, Professor Panda, Professor Anurag Vijayvargiya, and Professor Mishra, and my friends all across the country. Well, it is indeed an opportunity for all of us to introspect. Please interrupt me if I am not audible, okay?
You are audible, sir.
So, well, it is a very great opportunity for all of us who have been involved and associated in this webinar, all 3 days, for a major introspection of what has happened over the years and what is the future challenge the society faces. I mean, I have been involved in many of the webinars, but I think this is one of the best topics which has been covered. But to my understanding, I think this disaster risk management, which has been listed with climate change, probably disaster risk is the parent thing, and climate change is another component of the entire disaster risk management. I hope you will agree on that. And in that also, the major factor is the socio-economic vulnerability which the society faces. I was just reading an article few days back that between 2001 and 2010, about $1 trillion damage has been occurred all over the globe, and 1 million people lost their lives due to disaster-related activities. So probably it is very important to understand this whole thing in that scenario globally, nationally, and locally, and accordingly adopt, cope, and respond to prevent the risk. And nothing more practical and pragmatic is than the present problem of the COVID-19 which we all are facing. Now, if you go to the genesis of these problems, you see, there has been a lot of knowledge which is available. But my personal experience is that we are very less sensitized about all these issues. I was listening to Professor Gupta's lecture, which concluded just now, and that takeaway which I personally think was that he talked more about simple solutions, and which is for a society in which we live in, like a country like India, which has a population of 1.3 billion. Now, to reach the masses, we need very, very simple technologies, very simple solutions, and very pragmatic solutions. We cannot think of very hi-fi technologies which the people cannot adopt. I'm not against that. In fact, let me clarify that high technologies, innovations, high quality research is the need of the hour. But that is for a certain sector. But based on that, simple solutions, and I rather advocated when I was posted in the field that we must have intermediate technologies which are easily adopted, low cost for the people to imbibe and implement. Now, this is one thing because I mean, we being the second most populated country and different climatic and physical regions, right from the great Himalayas to the coastline, our problems are varied, our disasters are varied. We have flash floods also, we have cyclones also. I mean, like India, which has very good physiographical features, we have very major disasters also. And I, it's an elite gathering, so I need not highlight them. But right from the Alaknanda flash floods, which are fresh in our memory, to cyclones in Orissa, things are very painful many times. And these vulnerabilities, or even the tsunamis which we had in the South Asia region, all these things have been documented. We have had research, and I know NIDM has been doing a commendable work. But my worry is that though we have had many disaster management plans, we have disaster cells in the state, still there are gaps. And why these gaps are there, this is, I tried to analyze in the field also. Like, I will give you few examples, like the fire. Each year, we have large scale fires in the country, different parts of the country. I'm not talking of urban fires, the forest fires which happen. Some are natural, some are man-made. But the thing is that wherever the fires have been there raging, earlier there used to be a concept that local villagers used to be sensitized and they used to help the government machinery and extinguish the fire. Now today things have changed. It is very difficult to get the people, take them to the site and extinguish the fire. Everybody expects that there has to be some government machinery. So probably there has been a change in attitude of the people, and because of that, things have started. We have started becoming too much government dependent. Probably this is one thing. Secondly, we think that as a society, our certain responsibilities have waned down. Probably this needs to be inculcated in the masses, and people as a society have to be knitted into this whole system. The same thing today is happening in COVID. Now, it is a major disaster, we know. Government has been advocating, society has been advocating, administration has been advocating that you have to keep a social distance, you have to make a prevention, you have to uh, make the I mean safe distance and save yourself from the epidemic. But if you see the general condition, whether it is in the market, whether on the road, how much we follow, despite knowing that how much painful the whole process is, and you don't even get to see the dead person's body, people are still careless. I mean, I go for morning walk. When the total lockdown was there, you used to find the road totally clean. It was like it was washed. Again, now you find that it is pitted. There is pan gutka strewn all over. So, are people not aware of the risk? But we are spreading sputum. We are spitting on the road. We are spitting in the public places. So, my concern is that number one, the society at large has to take this responsibility on its own to sustain these challenges through self discipline, and probably the role of the elder people, the parents, is there to educate their youngsters, the friends, and the vulnerable section. Now, second thing is, I have been listening to some of the deliberations and the studies which have been presented, and with the keynote speakers, their ideas, and probably it has covered all the aspects, and right from socioeconomic technological advancements and I mean global scenario to national scenario. And while congratulating that, I mean there has to be certain emphasis on disaster risk analysis also, such as related to, I mean, if you see, there are many gaps still, and we need to have the challenge like the research has been there on the disaster resistance crops, but still lot needs to be done in this field. And besides that, the fluctuations in the temperature, the various, I mean, mechanisms which can save human lives and infrastructure, we need to have those in place. And my concern is that certain traditional knowledge which has been there all over the time, it has to be blended with the modern tools, because totally traditional will not work, totally modern will not work. It has to be a blend. And probably if we are able to imbibe both the good points, uh, things can be much better. And India has taken a lead. I mean, like you know, when the COVID epidemic came, we focused a lot on Ayurveda. I mean, Ayurveda has been ancient historical, uh, our scientific knowledge, which has been coined by Germans. I mean, they have used it for their own scientific research, and we here have been looking at it as a third step solution. When I was working in Germany, I mean, I spent a good number of years there. I was surprised to see that even the allopathic doctors, they first start with N2, which is naturopathy. The same doctor is trained in naturopathy, then he goes for homeopathy, and then as the last resort, he will go for allopathy. Whereas here, we go straight away to allopathy. So, I mean, this is a very classic example which has been going there for ages, that they have blended traditional knowledge, medicine, with the modern scientific knowledge. So, probably this is the way we need to focus here also, that whatever good has been traditionally followed in our society, whether it is related to science, whether it is related to agriculture practices, whether it is related to our household mechanism, जिसे कहते हैं दादी माँ के नुस्खे, from there we start and then blend with the modern science. So my request is that if we can have certain I mean, literature in vernacular language for the common public and distributed through the panchayats for people related to some basic things like disease control. Some, I mean, this has to be a very major impact on the society. You know, the problem in our country is that we have very good plans, we have got very good mechanisms, but outreach is little difficult. Why it is difficult? Because what we conceptualize at the national level or at the state level, it has to be understood by the person who is implementing at the field. The person, the village level workers, the forest guard, the patwari, the health extension workers, the mitanis, they have to be sensitized at that level to transfer your thoughts, your means the national thought, the political thought, the scientific thought, or the ideas to the ground level. Once you are able to develop this mechanism, you are going to get a lot of success. And everything cannot be communicated through, I mean, literature or through your documented books or pamphlets. There has to be very simple pamphlets, there to be very simple literature locally in their language, because like something you are talking about COVID control, unless until it is not only in Chhattisgarh, even in Chhattisgarh, it has to be then in the local dialect, which is maybe Gondi, Halbi, that way, then only it can bring the desired result. Now, I will come to one of the very major flagship programs which our state has undertaken under the leadership of Honorable Chief Minister Shri Bhupesh Baghel, and which has now uh, received not only national but international acclaim. You must have heard the concept of Narwa, Gurwa, and Bari. So basically, this is making the village self-reliant. Now, how it has been related to disaster risk reduction, I'll just explain in a few minutes. Basically, you have a lot of flash floods, you have a lot of flooding of the plains, you have a lot of water gushing down. Unless and until you break it at intermittent level, you are not going to get the desired result. So, when Honorable Chief Minister issued the directive in December 2018, and since then we have covered the entire state. It is not only one department which is doing; it is Forest Department, Irrigation Department, Panchayat and Rural Development Department. See, the concept is so unique that way that it has got entire because some streams start in the forest, so that portion the Forest Department treats. Then the revenue department area is treated by irrigation department of the panchayat department. Ultimately, all these rivulets, nalas, they have various structures, the Gavian structures, the stop dams, the check dams, and then the water flow is checked. So the local village level groundwater is recharged, but at the same time, the gush of the water during the rainy season is mitigated, and that has been helpful in preventing floods in many regions. So this way, the whole major river systems, Arpa, we have Mahanadi, we have Indravati, all these major rivers are being treated. Of course, to cover the entire state, it will take 2 3 years. But then the action plan is in place, and this has taken a very major shape. Now, second is the cleaning of the village area. How this was this was undertaken through this Gurva scheme, where all the area has been into cattle area has been earmarked, and which we call Bhutan, and there the cattle are kept, and the manure is used for organic fertilizer. And then the Gurva, this is the area which has the residue, crop residue, and other waste, which is again treated for making compost. And then Badi means the home garden concept. Home garden means having your own self-reliant vegetable fruit area, so that the area as a whole village is holistically treated. But ultimately, it leads to number one, cleanliness of the area, number two, organic production of the uh, eatables, number three, cleaning of the village from garbage, and number four, groundwater research. So this is at a local level, but it has impact because then the whole state is covered. It has a regional impact. I mean, this is low cost, but intermittent technology. Now we have even gone for certification of certain areas, certain even the government is purchasing the cow dung from the unproductive cattle, and that is also being used for organic fertilizer. So there has been a livelihood support also, which is no parallel in anywhere in the country or even globally. So this is several such examples we can have, and once these case studies are documented and people see the benefit, things start improving, which has happened in the state of Chhattisgarh. And I feel proud that it is happening in the state where I am working. Now, friends, I don't want to preach any sermon because all are very highly educated. All it's an intellectual gathering. But my only concern is that the society at present is having lot of hardships, which are emotional hardships, which are financial hardships also. Many people have lost jobs, which are socio-economic hardships, and also there is, I mean, this whole climatic impact which is taken place. So, unless and until the research which we have and it is put into public domain and it is done in a way that people are able to understand it. And my concern is that research, whatever we do in the universities or in the national or international institutions, unless and until it is transferred for application in the field, it doesn't have much impact. So we have tried to collaborate with like the medium and small ministry enterprises, MSMEs, small manufacturing enterprises, and innovation hubs, and we are trying to develop certain technologies which then people can use it. Like a crude example is, you must have seen a lot of sanitizer tunnels being made. They have been costing from 50,000 to a lakh or more. When my office required it, both offices, Regional Science Center and here, I asked my team that why can't we have inbuilt? And with a local startup, we made it for just costing about 14,000. So this is how technology can be made cheaper. It can be made cost effective. And I always believe in giving examples which is practically implementable, which you or me have done it, so that that brings a desired result, gives confidence to the people. And one major thing is that many times we think that there are certain things which are destructive, like mining. Now, Raigad, since OP Jindal University is there, Raigad is full of mines and power plants. You see, government of India lays down many conditions, and the thing is that we many times lack in fulfilling those conditions. Otherwise, if you are doing sustainable mining, where you follow the guidelines, you can reclaim the area back to the original condition with a 70-degree sag, which is internationally accepted. And I've seen it globally that this is possible. But many times in our country also, I find that we are lacking in it. So my request is that whatever we do, we need to see that what is the end result. It should not only be the commercial angle, it should not only be the angle from profit, but it should be angle from how the society has to be benefited, how the nature has to be benefited, and after doing the extraction work, we need to come back to the original shape, make the water bodies, make the area green, and then reclamation, if done properly, things come back to the natural shape. So this is very important aspect which we need to focus. And there, I think, again, our field research, there are technologies, geotextiling, many other things which are there, but people sometimes try to avoid to cut costs. So the user agency needs to work on that. My request will be that besides having a proceedings of this whole 3-day webinar, and we not only focus on the recommendations, but also some climatic solutions. Like Professor Gupta was very correct in mentioning that lot of invasive species are affecting our forest, our nature. Whatever, not only forest, even our colonies. I see driving down back to my workplace, lot of colonies, roadsides, we have lot of Parthenium coming up, which is a very major source of pollution. And also asthmatic problem to us. So that needs to be eradicated. Now people don't think of it, we just ignore it. So these are the things which have to be thought by the society, those who are living nearby. And that is what conservation and livelihood, once it goes together, it brings a sea change. My personal request is that each of us has to make a small beginning, and charity begins at home. So our aim has to be that the environment which we live in, that is the area which we work, if we are able to sensitize our team of people, our officers, our support staff, and they are able to sensitize their, I think we can make a small beginning. Well, I don't know how to thank all of you for having given me this opportunity. My gratitude to the management and the
Thank
team.
you, Mudit ji, for your wonderful comments with respect to intermediate cost and pragmatic solutions, which are the need of the hour with respect to huge this polluted country, populated country like, and also a polluted country like India. You also highlighted that though we have lots of knowledge, yet we are less sensitive to climate change and disaster risk management issues. You emphasize that we need to think globally, nationally, and locally in the light of the fact that COVID-19 has opened new vistas, new horizons, and new normals for all of us. You rightly said that society at large has to bring in self-discipline and certain behavioral changes among ourselves, and at the same time fill gaps with respect to disaster risk analysis. Research should also be transferred to the field, the lab to land strategy in local vernaculars, and we sure, sir, will follow the path of charity begins at home, that strategy. Thank you, sir.